Hey y'all, okay, so now we're going to make those little cloud shapes, and we're going to also create some animations. So one thing I do want to show you really quick is, before we get started, with this gradient here, or anything that you want to make transparent, we can actually put borders around stuff. So let's say, and using that RGBA with the transparency is how you can actually have shapes that have no fill but have a stroke. So we would say, let's say we want the border on this to be red. We would say, I think it's 2 pixels, red, solid. Yeah. So how big you want it to be, the color, and what type of border. You just have to say it's solid or dotted, etc. Okay, so then that will give this whole thing a border, but then also still have this transparency. So let me show you a better example of that. So for instance, on, let's say, on Gnome Friend here, right? Let's say maybe we just want the head to be an outline. Okay, let's give it like 5 pixels. And then our background color would be RGBA. It really, if it's just transparent, it really won't even matter what colors you put in here. This is the most important one, 0. Because now it's completely transparent. If we put, 0.5, it'll be this half transparent gray, because 000 is black. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so then you would just have this outline here instead of, so just like, these shapes over here with this, the triangle, this is pretty much just like a transparent crop. It's the same thing here. So no matter what color I put in that background, let's see, where did we have that? Icon 1. I thought I did that. Yeah, so, oh no, I did that for that. So let's see, if we did background color red, okay, so if we did, pink, the color would come through no matter what. Okay, so no fill via the RGBA, and then just your border. It would be it goes the size of the border, the color, and then the type of border. So for instance, if you wanted to do, for some reason, a dotted, this would then have a dotted border. Okay, so just some other ways of creating your shapes. So we'll leave that. It's kind of cute. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to create some really, really simple animations. So we're just going to kind of make this rocket ship move back and forth, and then, oh yeah, we're also going to make the clouds. So for the clouds, there's 2 ways that we can do those. Let me head down here. I'll first show you this way. So this is just using a width, a height, a border radius, and then a box shadow. And so what this will allow us to do, let's make this white. Okay. And remember that box shadow goes, it goes X, Y, so horizontal, vertical, the blur, and then the spread. So you can increase the size of the spread. This will make it fuzzy. And then the color. So that's box shadow. Okay. So I'm going to just leave this here for now. Let's head back here. Okay, so we kind of have this like half moon shape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a lot smaller. Let's say like 20 VW and 20 VW. Oh, that didn't make it smaller at all. I'm going to use my web inspector. So we'll find clouds and let's do like 10 and 10. Okay, so I'm going to explain what's going on here. Okay, so with this, what's happening in this shape is that I actually have, so I have created a div that has no properties at all. It's just an empty div and it has no background color. So what it's doing is it's using its emptiness and its roundedness with the border radius to sort of cut into my box shadow, which is pretty fucking cool, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, so I have this totally round shape, right? So let's actually just give it a background color so you could see what's happening. Okay, so when I put no color there, it's just transparency. So it kind of just like chops this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move my shadow to the top here. Oops. And actually, I'm going to change these to, I'm going to change this to VW. And we'll say 0 VW on this one. Okay. Okay. So then when I get rid of this, I kind of just have this like little accent mark. And you know, we can make this wider, we can make it taller. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'm going to move this one into position. So what I'm making here is I am making, did I close that tab? I'm making Hoon's little cloud shapes that are going to go at the bottom. So I'm going to move these into position, and I'm just going to use, margin. I don't want to quite put it, I don't want to quite put it at the center, so I'm going to do top, right, bottom, left. So top, right, bottom, I'll just use the left. Let's say okay. And I don't want to use a double box shadow here because I want this to, if I used a double box shadow, then it would just be another circle. And so I kind of want like two shapes like this and then like other shapes at the bottom. And so I'll just keep going and hopefully it'll make sense what I'm trying to do here. And let's actually move this up a little bit. So maybe I'll do like -1 VW. Whoops. Yeah, -2. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing over here, put this in with Cloud Friend. Okay. And then I will call a pseudo class for my clouds. So dot clouds. Oops, wrong language. And so we'll do our first. I'll do my position absolute, and I will do my, oops, this is relative, my bad. Let's not waste this. Copy this, put this friend here, relative friend, and then I need my content, blank, and then let's also turn this into a, let's do before. Okay, so I'm pretty much going to do the same exact thing here. And just going to save and then use my web inspector to kind of finish it up. So I should have, oops, let's see, content blank, absolute, absolute. That's not what I wanted. Give me this, thank you. Okay, so for some reason, let's see here. Let's see why my pseudo class isn't showing up. Oh, because I forgot the S in clouds. Good job. Master's degree. All right, here we go. Got our before. Okay, so let's use our top. Actually, I think I just want to use left because I just want to move it over. So left. All right, so I can move this friend here. Okay, and then just to make it look a little more cloud-like, I can kind of adjust this. And maybe we move this over a little bit. Maybe we say like 0.2, something like that. 0.3 maybe. Okay. And then I can move this down. 0. Oops. Actually, maybe I want this one to be 1 still. Where did I have that at? 0? No. Yeah, 1. And then maybe we want to move this over just a little bit less. Because I kind of want it to touch. 12.5. Okay. So we'll copy this over. Okay, so the box shadow again is what's actually creating that. Okay, so I'll do the same thing here with my after. And instead of doing my box shadow as white, I'm going to do a linear gradient. And, whoops, let's make sure I have the syntax right first. And we'll just leave it like that for now, so you can see what we're doing. Okay, and so I'll use my web inspector here. After, okay. So, oh, doesn't like that. Fine. All right, my bad. Thought you could do that. I think there's a way you can do it. We'll figure it out in class. So let's just move this friend over. And okay. Maybe we want to make it kind of smaller. Right. And we'll do some top here. And we'll move it over just a little bit more. And then we'll obviously kind of make it white. Okay, so we got some cloud shapes here. So I'll just copy this in there. And then let's try another box shadow. I'm kind of interested to see if we could get maybe one more shape out of this. I don't think, oh, can we? Wow, let's see. So we can get another shape out of it, but it's only going to pertain to that circle. So for instance, you know, if you want to kind of make a flower shape, right? You could, let me just show you this really quick. You could very well add a bunch of these, right? Kind of around the same shape, right? So that same transparency. It'll kind of let you, so I think this one we'd actually have to go down a bit. Let's try that. Okay, so see that you can actually start to kind of build up this flower shape, and then you would have that transparency in the middle. So that could also be like another way that we could create this cloud shape too, perhaps. So we would just have to maybe scale this up. And it could kind of create that cloud shape for us, and we could just move these up a bit. So that would be the Y, right? Let's see what that does for us. Oh, well, it would have to be negative, my bad. So negative. Let's try like -3. Yeah, so we could kind of like start to create that cloud shape. So you have a lot of options for stuff like that. We're just going to keep going the way that we're going. And I'll move this one, this original one, over a little bit with our margin. So maybe we'll do like 20. Yeah, let's try like 19. And I think I made this one a little too big. Yeah, so I think we wanted that original size. I have 10. I do not remember. So let's move that over just a tiny bit. Okay, so let me just copy this, put this in our after, and then we want to move this whole thing over, so let's say like 15, just so we can get it to be a little more centered. Okay. Alright, so, and then maybe, I don't know, we could rotate this one just a little bit, just to give it a little more of a, you know, kind of rounder cloud shape. Okay, so what we'll do now is we will work on a little bit of an animation, just to give y'all a little reminder. So we're going to call our @keyframes, and we're going to name it. Let's name this like space moves. Okay, and then we open up our block. And then inside of the block, we're going to do a couple percentages. So this would be like the beginning, 50% would be the middle, and 100 would be the end. And you can do as many of these as you want. And so what we're going to animate is I think we'll animate both of these. We'll start with the spaceship, okay? So I am going to pick something within spaceship to animate. And what's nice about the pseudo class is that when I move this one around, right, it's going to move the pseudo classes around. So let's animate just real quick our margin top. And there's certain things that you can't animate. So for instance, you can't animate a background image. There are ways that you can do that. We'll work on that in class. But for instance, you can't animate this background image. But there's ways that we can kind of like fake it. So I don't know why I have margin top and margin auto twice. We'll just try margin top for now in our animation. So let's head down here. We'll start it off at 0. We'll head up to, we'll start up at 0. We'll head up to 0, and then maybe come all the way down to 5 VW or something like that. So then to get this animation into the matched element, we need to head up here inside the matched element. So I want to put it in spaceship, and I do animation. The name should be the first thing. Let's look up the shorthand for this real quick. Should be all the way at the bottom here. Here we go. So that's what the shorthand looks like. Here's pretty much your list, okay? So it goes the animation, the duration, the timing function. So I want it to last like 2 seconds maybe. These timing functions, this allows you, so you can look any of these up if you head up here. So the timing functions, where are those at? Delay. Ah. Okay, so the curve is pretty much what it means. Here's the options for that timing function. So like, for example, linear will just go from point A and like just in a straight line. See how like these will sort of like start off slow, kind of ease in. Okay, so these will kind of give you those like nice kind of like more fluid animations. So I like ease in, ease out. It's what I usually tend to use. But just try a bunch of different ones. But all the options for you are just going to be in this page itself. So I'll do ease in, I think it's out. Yeah. And then we'll do the delay. I don't want a delay. And I'll do infinite to run it infinitely. You could put a number there. And then I'm going to have it alternate. So it's going to go from like 0 to 100 and then 100 to 50 back up to 0 again. So it'll be a nice fluid animation. Okay, let's try this. All right, so now I have and then notice how, you know, it kind of slightly makes the space a little bigger. Now, you don't have to do alternate. You know, you could do forwards. I'll show you the difference. So the animation runs and then it goes back to where it started from, and then backwards will end on end on where the 100% of your animation. So one thing that you can do in your animation just to make it even smoother is, we can say maybe at 90% go to 5 VW, and then at 100, or I don't know, 95%, and then at 100 go back to 2, so that this one and this one kind of start and end at the same unit. And as you can see, like, the timing will kind of make things move in really interesting ways. So maybe we want to drop this down even more, just to give you a little more dramatic effect here. And see that ease in, ease out function, if I set that to linear, where did I put that? So it won't have that same kind of I anticipated that to behave a little differently, but let's try ease. See if we can get anything to look a little different there. So yeah, you can see that they behave like a little differently. So I would definitely recommend that you just kind of mess with that to see what you can get it to do. Other things that you can do, right? We can maybe like wiggle around the clouds. We can change the background color. So let's just do that really quick. So if you want to call multiple animations in the same CSS rule, you just separate them by a comma, like so. Put the same thing next to it, so you'll want all this good stuff in there as well. But let's real quick just do a animation for. Let's do an animation for the clouds, so we can totally animate our box shadow. So let's come down here. Maybe we want the clouds to move a little bit, so let's call them cloud move. Okay, and we can do our box shadow. Maybe turn them to gray. Or let's start them out at white. Turn them to gray. And then here we can just go back to white. Okay, so then let's call this in here, and I'm just going to copy this friend. Throw this in here. And I will just change this space moves to cloud moves. Okay, so then I have, and see the position changes as well. So if I want to also animate these other ones, right, I have to call a specific animation for those. Okay, so I have this other animation here for cloud moves 2. Let's turn this friend back on. Okay, and so what I can do, and so as you see, like, you can actually have some really interesting effects. So like those of you that are making flowers, you could use this technique here. So I just kind of increased the size of the box shadow. We can also maybe mess with the spread here. Ooh, look at us. So we can animate all these little things here, and so let's try to do another one of these. So this is Cloud Moves 2. I put this in the before. We can try to call this in after, see what happens. It's probably going to mess it up just because I have, this is very different than the box shadow for this one, but let's just see. Okay, so see, it's kind of like tweaking it a little bit. So what we would need to do is just make its own animation. So let's say cloud moves. This one would be for the after. We'll call this one after. And then what I'll do here is I'll start with these units of measurement and maybe end with them. Okay, so then I'll call this one after. Ooh. Okay, and then I'll do one just for just the cloud itself. So this is just going to be cloud moves like the original, and then I'll go back up to the original cloud friend. So I already have the animation in there. Go back up to the original cloud friend, grab what that one starts at, find this, I'll start it here, and I'll make them all have kind of the same chain, so it looks like it's kind of following the rocket ship. Oops. Okay, so cloud moves, so I got cloud moves after, cloud moves 2, and then cloud moves, and they're going backwards because they're sort of finishing up the way that I wrote them to end. Okay, now I have these like really special little cloud friends. And if I want, you know, I can go back in and I can maybe make them move a little bit more, right? So maybe on cloud moves, maybe this one is 1 VW, this one's 5, I don't know. Maybe we just kind of make them like a little more dramatic.